Is there supposed to be a certain protocol for people to check in?
No, and I begin with me, and then he can speak, and they can speak for the other generation. But I'm a never, you know what I mean? We don't have time for no sucker shit like that.
Know the reason, but what is the reason why you moved to Houston?
Well, look, first of all, like every time I've experienced Houston, like when I was out here, I ran into random acts of kindness. Like the people have been good to me. You know what I'm saying? So it's one of the places that I'm like, man, or maybe Houston, like Houston or Miami popped into my head. Mm-hmm. They said 58%. I said, what? You my partner? The IRS is my partner now? I don't know. All you get is a Yankee hat? I'm going to Houston.
So 50 Cent just dropped a major bombshell, and it's making everything between him, Jay Prince, and Supreme McGriff's crew look way darker than anyone thought. He's not just throwing shade, he's claiming there was an actual plot to take him out. At first, folks figured it was just the usual rap game ego clash. 50 refusing to check in and Jay Prince feeling some type of way about the disrespect. But now, 50's naming name, and things are sounding real serious. What's wild is that Supreme's own son is allegedly tied up in all this mess. And get this, Rick Ross might be in the mix too. Word is he's been linking up with some of the 50's known enemies just to stir the pot even more. Now that 50's connecting the dots between Jay Prince, Supreme's legacy, and all these sneaky behind the scenes moves, the picture is starting to look real twisted. Is this the real reason 50 suddenly pulled back from Houston? Was there something shady being cooked up behind closed doors? Let's take it from the top. It all started in Houston. Jay Prince runs that city like a kingpin. Nobody moves without him knowing. When artists come through, they're expected to check in. It's supposed to be about respect, but to a lot of folks, it sounds more like a shakeup than a show of honor, especially when bad things still happen to people who do check in.
Mike and Junior was walking by. He actually went in the restroom to wash blood off his hand where he had reached up on the takeoff. He had to pick him up. And his fingers went in it. Why blood? Well,
Does there be a certain protocol for people to check in?
No, and I begin with me, and then he can speak, and they can speak for the other generation. But I'm a never, you know what I mean? We don't have time for no sucker shit like that.
So when 50 Cent made the move to Houston, Jay Prince expected him to play by the rules. But 50 wasn't having it. He flat out refused to check in, said he didn't owe anybody anything. He's got his own security, his own bankroll, and wasn't about to follow any street rules he doesn't believe in. To Jay Prince, that was pure disrespect. And this wasn't no quick visit. 50 moved in full-time and even tweeted, "I love New York, but I live in Houston now." At first, people thought 50 Cent bounced from New York just to dodge those insane taxes. It made sense. New York taxes are brutal, and 50's always been about his paper. But turns out, that wasn't the full story. He had massive plans, like $20 million level moves, a G-Unit film studio, liquor brands, school programs, giving back to the hood. He was setting up like a straight-up mogul. But here's the twist. He was building all that right on Jay Prince's home turf. And he did it without asking, without checking in, and without bowing down to the so-called gatekeepers.
I got out there, they showed me a lot of love. Mm-hmm. But Shreveport had the infrastructure already here. Like even the tax incentive was put
well,
back.
Yeah. And so a lot of people have been talking about, man, he's here only because they gave him a cheap deal or something like that. The reality is there's more to that deal than that. Way more.
They can't see.
Break that down.
I'm spending $20 million this year anyway in the same building that they're saying was the cheap building.
Right.
So find somebody else to
Me to start a new relationship with Houston. I'm excited about it. The opportunity. I had a lot of fun things for the kids. I think that they're really going to get a chance to appreciate and enjoy it. And
that's when the tension started bubbling, for real. Whispers kicked off almost instantly. People were saying there was pressure behind the scenes, like certain doors weren't opening for 50 on purpose. Folks claimed he was being watched, and some crews were even waiting for him to slip.
Maybe we need to change the word for the youngsters. The checking in part, is they seem to get hung up on that word, checking in.
Yeah.
So if we could diversify that word and bring it up to a 2021 thing.
Right. What's the word, OG? What's the word?
Maybe we may want to tell them
they need to get connected. Stuck on stupid, right?
Yeah.
You're stuck on stupid and you're not using your powers or access to powers that you have. You're looking at it as a negative versus a positive. You know, we all know if you can tap into good people wherever you go.
Wherever, yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a blessing, Rip.
But 50 didn't fold. He stood his ground and even pushed harder. To him, all that check-in talk, just a cleaner word for extortion. And let's be real, he might not be wrong. Even artists who did check in still got caught in drama. Takeoff checked in, still gone. Jacob the jeweler, pressed. XXXTentacion tried to lay low, still got targeted. So in 50's eyes, why pay for protection that clearly ain't protecting anyone? He called it what it was, fake security. And if you've been through what he's been through, you don't scare that easy. But then out of nowhere, something shifted. The energy changed fast. 50 dipped from Houston, real quiet, pulled the plug on the film studio. Just like that, everything moved to Shreveport, Louisiana. The move was low-key, but it sent a loud message. People were scratching their heads, like, why would 50 dip from a city that literally handed him the key to the streets? Why bounce now? Then he dropped one quiet bomb in an interview. Houston didn't embrace me the way I expected. That one line said it all. The vibe had clearly flipped. Something felt off, maybe even dangerous. And what's wild? While all that tension was bubbling under the surface, 50 was still being publicly celebrated. He was the Grand Marshal of the Thanksgiving parade. They gave him his own day. November 24th became officially 50 Cent Day in Houston. The mayor was giving him his flowers. Folks in the community were cheering him on, but not everyone was clapping. J. Prince? He wasn't smiling.
We have the honor of saying to him, he's our 2022 Grand Marshal. Give it up to Curtis 50 Jackson.
Word behind the scenes was that he was heated. From his point of view, 50 was parading around his city with way too much power, too much attention, without ever checking in. This wasn't just about clout anymore. It turned into a power struggle, and 50 was playing to win. Then, right when things seemed to be cooling down, another name crashed back into the spotlight, Supreme McGriff. If you know 50's history, you already know that name ain't just random, it's heavy. Back in the early 2000s, 50 got sprayed 9 times, and a lot of people think Supreme's crew had something to do with that. That's the whole reason 50 dropped the track Ghetto Koran. He was naming names and spilling the tea on street legends from Queens. And Supreme, yeah, he was one of the main ones. That track Ghetto Koran, it wasn't just a song, it was seen as straight up snitching in the streets. And Supreme didn't take that lightly. Not long after, 50 got shot 9 times and somehow survived. Then he flipped that pain into power. He blew up, turned the story into fuel for his brand, made it part of his rise to the top. But while 50 was out here winning, Supreme's fate was the opposite. He got hit with life in prison. But here's the thing, through everything, Supreme never folded, never ratted, and in the streets, that earns major respect. Meanwhile, 50 kept that story spinning. He used it in interviews, in lyrics, even on the big screen, turned all that trauma into millions. But Supreme, he never forgot.
I had the resilience to go against anybody. Like, there's nobody that's too ill. Those are the guys that you would choose not to go against at that point. It's in the environment.
That grudge, still alive? Then boom, enter Irv Gotti. He wasn't just a side character, he was deep in this drama. Irv and Supreme, they were like family. Irv even helped bankroll Supreme's legal fight when things got real. He stayed solid, never snitched, never switched sides. That kind of loyalty meant everything to Supreme. And 50? He tore Irv's empire down. Murder Inc. got smoked, Ja Rule faded, the whole label left in ruins. Even after Irv passed from a stroke, 50 kept trolling. He posted a pic of himself smoking hookah next to a fake gravestone captioned, "I'm smoking on that Gotti pack. Nay, God bless him." LOL. The day before, when the stroke news hit, 50 wrote, "Damn, I wanted him to see my new shows." That hit a nerve with Supreme's son, McGriff Jr. He snapped on Instagram, said, "If I said I was smoking on your mother and your grandfather pack, ninjas would be telling me I'm wrong, right?" He went in on 50 calling him a clown. "Y'all really love this clown? Well, I'm gonna always give the same energy. Nobody can tell me nothing." That's what McGriff Jr. made clear, and to him, Irv Gotti was family. Disrespecting Irv, that was like spitting on Supreme himself. And that's when things started getting real serious. 50 Cent began dropping cryptic posts, sneaky jabs on social media, talking about snakes in the grass, fake friends, silent enemies creeping up like he couldn't see them coming. But trust, he saw everything. Then came the real bomb. 50 allegedly leaked info about some behind-the-scenes talk between J. Prince's crew and Supreme's son. Yeah, allegedly they were talking setups, pressure, maybe worse. And 50 wasn't being quiet about it. He put it out there, plain as day. He wanted everyone watching to know exactly what time it was. And just to twist the knife, he even started trolling J. Prince directly, daring him to pull up. But right when things were already burning hot, guess who slides into the picture? Rick Ross. Him and 50 been beefing forever, lawsuits, drama, deep family shots. It's pure hate between them. And suddenly, Ross is spotted chilling with folks from Supreme's circle. To most people, that might just look like a random hangout. But to 50, that wasn't a coincidence. It looked like a move. Like Ross was linking up with the son of the man who allegedly tried to take him out. That wasn't just disrespectful, that was bold.
It's for you, man. Sweet. You the only one in Miami with that, baby. You know the, see what it is. You know the vibes. You see what it is.
Yeah. And word on the street, that meetup wasn't for clout. It was allegedly part of a bigger setup, a real plan, a possible hit to get 50 out the way. Insiders are saying Supreme McGriff Jr. is done playing it cool, especially after 50 kept clowning Irv Gotti online, even after Irv passed. That was the last straw. And now with J. Prince stepping in, the tension just hit a whole new level. J. Prince isn't just mad about the check-in disrespect. Nah, it's deeper. Word is he's trying to make an example out of 50. Because if he lets it slide, then what's stopping other rappers from skipping the whole check-in game too? And for a guy like J. Prince, that's not just disrespect, it's a direct threat to the power structure. 50 might want to keep both eyes wide open, because when you really dig into J. Prince's past, you start seeing just how deep the roots go. This ain't just a music mogul we're talking about. We're talking about a man who allegedly rose through the streets with serious backing and real connections. Back in the late 80s, his name was already popping up in federal documents. The streets were buzzing. Rumors said he had major roots coming out of Mexico, pushing weight straight through Texas into Louisiana, even touching Chicago. This wasn't no small hustle. This was organized, calculated, and global. And around that same time, he allegedly linked up with Larry Hoover, the founder of the Gangster Disciples. That connection changed the game completely. Suddenly, there was a full pipeline from Houston straight to the Midwest, and guess who was sitting in the middle of all that power? J. Prince.
This was the idea of my father, seeing that it was connections to Drake and Kanye, and that they were such iconic figures, and with them going through things.
Then, out of nowhere, Rap-A-Lot Records hits the scene. On the surface, it looked like a legit label, all about putting Houston talent on the map. But in the streets, people were whispering that it was way more than music. Word was, it was a front, a smooth way to flip dirty money into clean paper. And guess what? The feds weren't sleeping on it. By 1988, the DEA had already locked in on J. Prince and Rap-A-Lot. They weren't playing, they launched a full-blown investigation. We're talking bugged phones, watched houses, undercover drivers getting flipped, associates being squeezed for info. They were tracking shipments like hawks, building a tight case from every angle. And just when it looked like they were about to slam the door shut, poof, it all disappeared. By the late 90s, the whole case just vanished. The U.S. Attorney General dropped everything. No charges, no headlines, just silence. Like it never happened. No charges, no headlines, just straight up silence. That doesn't just happen, not unless you've got real muscle pulling strings behind the scenes. That kind of vanish into thin air moment, it screams power at the highest level. Now jump to today, and 50 Cent might be stomping on toes that have been dangerous since the 80s. This ain't just rap games and social media shots anymore. He's stepping into a history soaked in street politics, big money, and serious reputations. So now the question is 50 just being paranoid? Or is he playing chess, calling it all out before something hits the fan? So what's really going on behind the scenes? Is there an actual setup brewing in the shadows? Or is this all just a high-stakes ego war spilling into the spotlight? One thing's for sure, this ain't your average rap beef. When power, legacy, and real street history collide, anything can happen. So we want to hear from you. Is 50 Cent exposing something real, or just stirring the pot before it boils over? Drop your thoughts in the comments, we're reading everything. And if this saga keeps heating up, and trust us, it will, we'll be right here breaking it all down for you. Now, don't forget to hit that like, share, and subscribe button, and smash that bell so you never miss the next drop. Catch you in the next one.